Proudly broadcasting from the Richard Philip Cavallaro studio.
WRHU.
Hempstead.
You discovered.
A cornerstone of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication.
WRHU.
All thoughts and opinions expressed here on WRHU's Newsline do not reflect the views of Hofstra University, the Board of Trustees, or Radio Hofstra University. All contrasting thoughts or suggestions can be sent to programming at wrhu.org or to room 127 Herbert Hall, 111 Hofstra University, Hempstead, New York, 11549.
Now, Long Island's largest radio news team brings you the Associated Press award-winning program, Newsline.
Coming up on Newsline Monday, May 6th, 2024.
Donald Trump was fined $1,000.
Hamas has accepted a ceasefire proposal.
And an update on the campus protests.
In health, U.S. measles cases are at an all-time high. I'll have everything that you need to know about how to keep yourself, your loved ones, and your community safe later in the broadcast.
In entertainment tonight, the rap battles return alongside the arrival of the Met Gala. I'm Ricky Hubert. I'll have all that and more later in the broadcast.
In sports, the Knicks are back in the Garden to begin the second round playoff match against the Pacers, and the Mets take a trip out west to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. I'm Jackson Warren, and I'll have that and more later this broadcast.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Dent.
And I'm Alexa D'Amato. We begin tonight's broadcast in New York. Former President Donald Trump was fined $1,000 for violating his gag order. Judge Juan Merchan held Trump in contempt of court and warned that jail is a possibility following future violations. Trump has already been fined $9,000 for posts on Truth Social that violated the order. A former Trump Organization controller gave a recap of how the company used payments to hide embarrassing stories about Trump. They were logged in a way where Manhattan prosecutors said they were illegal. This marked the first time jurors heard testimony about the reimbursements.
Israel is now striking parts of eastern Rafah on the Gaza Strip. The move is seen as an attempt to put pressure on Hamas to release hostages. The news comes as Hamas claims that it's accepted a ceasefire agreement negotiated by Qatar and Egypt. Israel and the U.S. are currently reviewing details of the proposal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly declined the potential agreement. His office stated that it was, quote, far from Israel's essential demands, but that it would send negotiators to continue talks for a ceasefire agreement. Negotiating a new set of terms agreed on by both parties would bring more than 7 months of war to a standstill.
Protests over the war in Gaza are continuing on college campuses. Columbia University canceled their whole university commencement earlier today, instead opting for smaller events because of security concerns. My co-anchor Michael Dent and I spoke to Columbia alumni and professor at the New School, Ali Kil-Anan.
I know that everything was not pristine and pure in these demonstrations. Still, there was a line that was crossed here by the Columbia administration and by the other administrations of all universities in the city, that the recourse to violence, to state violence against their own students, as faculty, as a professor, I think that this is a betrayal.
Police at the University of Southern California emptied an encampment yesterday. No one was arrested. Harvard University told protesters that those on the encampment will face involuntary leave and cannot sit for final exams. Dent and I spoke to students at New York University yesterday to hear what they saw.
I think things have been tense on campus since last semester, because tensions related to the Palestinian situation.
At some point it also gets a little bit annoying because you're trying to do your work at Stern and you hear the chants. Or the other day, I was late to class because they locked down my building because the protest was going outside, because I live right next to the president of NYU.
It gets to the point where it's a bit disturbing to see. I'm all for peaceful protesting, but when it gets out of hand, it's just stupid to see people behave like that, especially on my campus where I'm supposed to study and do well here at school.
I'm hearing a lot about violence and the need for NYPD to show up to campus, but from what I've seen, that doesn't seem necessary at all.
Adelphi University held a protest last week. WRHU's Kenny Foreman went to their campus to talk to students.
I'm a Jewish student, and seeing all these protests have me feeling a little uncomfortable because I don't believe I've done anything, and my people have done anything to get this kind of media hate and, hate out on the streets.
I really don't think it changed anything. If I'm being honest, right now people are worried about finals.
If I would have known, I might have participated in it. if I would have been available, but I didn't really know anything about it until like after it happened.
Hofstra University's Student Voices for Palestine also hosted a protest on campus earlier today.
Coming up after your Newsline Health Report with Ashley Blum. As Alexa mentioned, Hofstra held that second pro-Palestinian protest. Chuck Schumer gives a security announcement, and Glen Cove Councilwoman reacts to an expansion program. But first, your Newsline traffic and weather update with Melinda Rolls. WRHU News Time is 5:35.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
It is currently 71 degrees, 1 degree down from today's high of 72 degrees, accompanied by partly cloudy skies. This evening, temperatures will dip to 53 degrees and be conscious of some potential patches of fog after midnight. For tomorrow, I don't think we could ask for a more beautiful forecast. Expect sunny and clear skies with a high of 74 degrees, so definitely carve out some time to enjoy the sunshine. Looking ahead, mild temperatures will be carried throughout the week, mostly in the mid-60s. Expect some potential showers near the end of the week and mostly cloudy skies into Friday. If there's one forecast I can make for certain, it's that Long Island has an 100% chance of traffic. Expect severe delays of 16 minutes on Belt Parkway eastbound from exit 9 to Emmons Avenue and exit 17 to Shore Avenue. Moving further east, expect some delays of up to 12 minutes on Southern Parkway eastbound between exit 15 to Blakeman Drive and exit 19 to Peninsula Boulevard. I'm Melinda Rolls, and stay tuned for my second traffic update later in the broadcast.
Newsline. Health.
A record high number of measles cases has taken the U.S. by surprise and is only continuing to worsen. As of today, there are 131 confirmed cases in the country spanning across 20 states. One of the most recent to join the list is New York, with several cases in Manhattan and Westchester County, and even one here in Nassau County. Long Island pediatrician and board member of the Nassau Department of Health, Dr. John Zazzo, says that the disease is being spread at U.S. borders.
The reason we're seeing increases is because of it, what we like to say is importation of cases. People who are not immunized traveling out of the country to their home countries and then returning where these diseases are endemic and bringing it back to the United States. And then a lot of the migrant issue we're dealing with at the southern border is causing a big problem because they're coming through and they're not immunized. And they're not checking at the border to, they're not looking for vaccines there or immunizing them, which would be the way to stop that at that level.
The dozens of outbreaks are concerning physicians nationally. As measles can't be treated, it has to just run its course and has an extremely high contagion rate. According to Zazzo, some cases can even be fatal.
1 in 500 people who gets infected can develop an inflammation of the brain, which is potentially fatal. Another 1 in about 600 can also develop pneumonia, which can be very dangerous.
The CDC is stressing the importance of measles vaccinations, especially at this time. In New York State, children aren't allowed to attend school without both doses. However, school nurses in Amityville and Baldwin have been found falsifying vaccination records, an act which Zazzo states is putting everyone in the community at risk.
It's a crime. It's not just paperwork crime or fraud crime in the records. You're putting people at risk. The fact that we're clamping down so tightly should help to stem the tide.
Physicians are providing accelerated versions of the vaccine series to eligible children. Zazzo is reassuring parents that the vaccine causes no harm.
We have to get this misinformation away from people. Vaccines do not cause autism. Genetics causes autism. We know it's a genetic disease. So we have to kind of get people swinging away from it, and this way we can protect them the right way. The measles vaccine has been around. I'm 58. I got my first dose in the late 60s. We've been using that vaccine for a very long time, and it is incredibly safe.
Zazzo believes the number of cases locally will dissipate as the government cracks down on policies in schools and workplaces now more than ever before. As for the other states, U.S. physicians believe change must occur at the border to help keep case numbers down. With your Newsline Health Report, I'm Ashley Blum.
WRHU News Time is 5:39. Thank you, Melinda Rolls and Ashley Blum, for those reports. A small number of students and faculty members gathered again outside of the university's Hofstra Hall today to rally in support of Palestine. WRHU's Kenny Foreman was at the protest and spoke to some demonstrators, attendees, and professors. Let us take a listen.
It was around 1 o'clock when chants by demonstrators could be heard near the university's library. Some held signs that read "Ceasefire now" and "Free Palestine." Some waved Palestinian flags striped black, white, and green.
34,000 dead, and we can't speak up about it
because it interferes with university goings. I think Israeli bombs on Gazan universities disrupt my educational experience more than any protest demanding free
That's Michael Katzen, a first-year student and part of the new group Hofstra Student Voices for Palestine. He led many of the chants for the hour-and-a-half-long protest. Nearby was Carolyn Eisenberg, a professor of history at Hofstra. She says the United States should be in favor of a ceasefire.
The U.S. should be insisting on a ceasefire now, and a permanent ceasefire, and diplomacy to resolve this, even though there's no clean hands anywhere in this.
For A.J. Ramanan, the conflict hits close to home.
I grew up going to a Jewish school my whole life, and I actually have a friend who is currently being held hostage right now in Gaza. So this whole conflict going on really it holds a very near and dear place in my heart, and I am 100% on the Israel side.
Richard Himmelfarb is a professor of political science at Hofstra University. He was visibly disappointed at seeing another pro-Palestine protest.
It's saddening that there's so many people on our campus who hate the state of Israel and don't support the right of Israel to defend itself.
By 2:30 p.m., campus security along with Nassau police announced students would be suspended if they didn't end the protest as agreed to by organizers. So far, no students were arrested or suspended. I'm Kenny Foreman, WRHU News, Hempstead.
That was Kenny Foreman at Hofstra University's pro-Palestine protest.
Senator Chuck Schumer has announced that $400 million will be put towards places of worship for security purposes. Schumer stated that those places of worship may use the funds to install security cameras or hire security personnel. This announcement comes as concerns grow over the safety of Muslim and Jewish communities surrounding the conflict in the Middle East. Places of worship, such as mosques and synagogues, will need to apply for the first round of funding by May 21st.
A 16-year-old is facing charges of possession of a stolen vehicle and driving while impaired. These charges come after the teen was fleeing the scene of a fatal crash on Saturday. Police claim the teenager attempted to run away from the wreckage, abandoning a stolen 2008 Land Rover. The teen rear-ended a sedan being driven by a 73-year-old woman sometime after 9 o'clock p.m. The woman was rushed to Stony Brook Hospital, where she was pronounced dead.
New York announced an expansion to the tuition assistance program late last week. The minimum award was increased from $500 to $1,000 per student. The limit for eligibility was increased from $80,000 to $125,000 for families. According to the state, FAFSA submissions decreased by 24% last year. $225 million were not used by New Yorkers. My co-anchor Michael Dent spoke to Glen Cove City Councilwoman Marcia Silverman about this earlier today.
Governor Kathy Hochul announced an expansion of the state's tuition expansion program late last week. The program, which is expected to help over 90,000 students, is set to begin in 2025. I'm joined by Glen Cove City Councilwoman Marcia Silverman. Marcia, I'm going to get right into it. How does the tuition assistance program operate?
Well, it's really a wonderful program where students at our local state institutions, public schools, public universities and colleges get assistance for their tuition.
And what does the increase in the tuition assistance mean for low-income families? And do you expect to see any sort of increase in first-gen students?
You know, my hope is that it really does help a lot of lower-income students and gives them the opportunity that maybe they would not have otherwise had. It's difficult for everyone these days. Inflation seems to be making everything more expensive, and paychecks don't seem to go as far. So one of the things that people cut out are education, unfortunately. So hopefully this really will bring people, more people in to get their degrees and have the opportunities that they may not have otherwise had.
And can you just elaborate a little bit more on the importance of that increase in first-gen students, should it happen?
Yeah. Again, it's people who may not be able to afford going to college. This can really help them just take the first step and say, I now do have the opportunity and can do it. So that's, you know, just having new entrants into colleges and universities, that's an amazing thing. And then there's the people who maybe enrolled today or or going to enroll anyway, but it's going to mean maybe they don't have to take on that second job or third job to get them through school, right? So it's not just about creating the opportunity for new people who would not have an opportunity at all, but it's also easing the opportunity for those who may be in school and maybe, again, by not having to take on an extra job, take time away from their studies when they're in school, this could really help them to accomplish and achieve more in their schoolwork and, accomplish some of their dreams that maybe would be put aside because they have to figure out ways to fund their education.
That was Michael Dent with Glen Cove City Councilwoman Marcia Silverman.
Starting today, the Loop Parkway is closed for construction in both directions from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. every day for the next 2 weeks. The New York State Department of Transportation says crews will be working to replace the steel deck of the drawbridge. Drivers are advised to use the Long Beach Bridge instead.
Residents of the East Farmingdale Water District are now facing a new quarterly service fee on their water bills, totaling $32. This fee is now being levied by the Suffolk County Water Authority, affecting close to 2,500 residents. However, an agreement between Babylon Town and the Water Authority will split the fees brought in over the past year, ensuring residents are not impacted by the oversight. Despite the new charges, some residents see it as a small price to pay considering the relatively low cost of water compared to other utilities.
A birthday celebration turned into chaos when gunfire erupted at a teenager's 18th birthday party in Westbury. The shooting left 6 people injured, all of whom were transported to nearby hospitals with gunshot wounds. Witnesses described the scene as chaotic, with people running for safety after hearing the gunshots. Despite the commotion, all injured individuals are expected to recover. Police are still investigating the incident.
Coming up, your Newsline Entertainment Report with Ricky Hubert. But first, your Newsline Traffic Update with Melinda Rolls. WRHU News Time is 5:47.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
The right shoulder is blocked on Southern State Parkway due to a disabled vehicle near exit 41 to Sagdeco State Parkway, so prepare for a few-minute delay in the area. On Belt Parkway eastbound, expect delays of up to 14 minutes between exit 19 to Conduit Avenue and Southern Parkway. Finally, moving to the north of the island, expect delays of about 10 minutes on Northern Parkway eastbound between Grand Central Parkway and exit 38. With your final Newsline traffic update, I'm Melinda Rolls.
Newsline. Entertainment.
Drake has released a new song responding to Kendrick Lamar's claims that he pursued underage women. In the Heart, Part 6, Drake states, quote, "I'd never been with no one underage, but now I understand why. This the angle that you really mess with. Clearly there's a deeper message, deep cuts that never healed, and now they got infected." The ongoing beef between Drake and Kendrick has gone on for over a month. Over the weekend, the beef was satirized on Saturday Night Live by first-time host and musical guest Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa's character noting in a Good Morning Greenvale sketch, quote, "Y'all, these diss tracks are getting insane," as her character attempted to connect the dots between the recent diss tracks. The highly anticipated Lovers and Friends Music Festival, slated to take place this Saturday, was canceled a day ahead of its opening night. According to the concert's official website, the festival was canceled due to weather issues. High wind warnings were released by the National Weather Service, and the concert lineup was stacked, and it was including Alicia Keys, Mary J. Blige, Gwen Stefani, Janet Jackson, and Usher, along with others. Usher wrote online response, quote, "Man, I'm just as disappointed as you are. I have to stand strong in my belief that everything happens for a reason." The Met Gala is tonight. The Costume Institute benefit is an annual fundraiser that occurs at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York on the first Monday of May. Most red carpet arrivals take place from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the red carpet live stream should begin at 6 p.m. The theme this year is Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion, and the dress code is The Garden of Time. The hosts of the gala this year are Zendaya, Jennifer Lopez, Bad Bunny, Chris Hemsworth, and of course Vogue's editor-in-chief, Anna Wintour. With your Newsline Entertainment Report, I'm Ricky Hubert, WRHU.
WRHU News Time is 5:49. Thank you, Melinda Rolls and Ricky Hubert, for those reports. Yesterday, my co-anchor Alexa D'Amato and I went to an Israelis for Peace protest in Union Square. Protesters chanted in a circle, holding signs and banging on drums. We also spoke to New School professor Eli Kilhanan, who spoke about the importance of Israelis having a place to voice their opinions.
even while fighting for Israeli democracy, we should not forget that the occupation is there, that occupation is the prime problem that we need to address. After October 7th, we felt that there is again a danger that our voice will be drowned, and we felt that there's a space needed for us as well.
The protesters acknowledged that many people were suffering in and around Gaza, not just Palestinians. Here's photographer at the event, Adi Avivi.
Palestinians and their lives are disproportionately affected by the fact that they are living under military occupation by Israel, and they have completely different rules in the region. So we're not neglecting it. However, Israelis are suffering as well. And my belief is that if you can hold compassion to both sides, you might bring them together.
Also at the protest was New York City Councilwoman Shahana Hanif. She talked to us about what was important to her.
The end to the genocide, the end to the mass murder and brutality of Palestinians is one that is of great importance to my Muslim and Bangladeshi communities.
She told us she represents large populations of both the Jewish and Muslim communities. She says that the issue is important in her district.
I've had to really take on this issue proactively to call for a permanent ceasefire to end this massacred violence, and be clear that calling for a permanent ceasefire means the release of all hostages, that we should be unequivocally against violence.
Many people we spoke to have been at the weekly protests several times before in an effort to show their support for Gaza and embrace their Israeli heritage.
Days of heavy rains in the Houston area are easing after hundreds of rescues and evacuations. Authorities say a 5-year-old boy is dead after riding in a car that was swept away by the water. High waters in southeast Texas have led to closed roads, closed schools, and lengthy cleanups in neighborhoods near rising river levels. Areas near Lake Livingston, located northeast of Houston, received 23 inches of rain in the past week.
A federal lawsuit challenging North Carolina's photo identification law is starting its trial today. The case will decide whether the law requiring voters to show IDs is constitutional. Arguments are expected to focus on whether the requirement discriminates against Black and Hispanic citizens or if it serves as a legitimate state interest. The trial begins more than 5 years after the state NAACP sued over the voter ID law.
Boeing is planning to launch 2 astronauts into the International Space Station tonight on its Starliner spacecraft. The launch will be Boeing's first launch with humans aboard its spaceship. The mission comes after years of delays, technical setbacks, and budget problems. The astronauts plan to dock at the space station the following day, then spend a week at the station before returning to Earth.
Arkansas officials plan to put up statues of civil rights leader Daisy Bates and singer Johnny Cash outside of the U.S. Capitol. The statues that had stood there for more than 100 years represented obscure figures in the state's history. Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson says he recalls giving tours in Statuary Hall, and after stating who the statues were, the tourist would reply, "We've never heard of them."
A driver died after crashing into a perimeter gate of the White House complex on Saturday. The president spent the weekend in Delaware and was not there at the time of the crash. The Secret Service says the crash was not a threat to the White House. The service will continue to investigate alongside police.
Russia has threatened to strike British military facilities. It would hold drills simulating the use of battlefield nuclear weapons, with tensions continuing to rise. The drills are responses to statements and threats from Western officials. Moscow said that Ukrainian strikes on Russian territory with UK-supplied weapons would bring strikes or could bring strikes against Britain on Ukrainian soil or elsewhere.
The remains of 3 individuals found near the Mexican Ensenada fishing port have been identified as missing surfers, 2 from Australia and 1 from America. The bodies were recovered from a remote well that was approximately 50 feet deep. Authorities claim they were victims of an apparent carjacking focused on taking the wheels off the surfers' pickup trucks. A San Diego medical examiner confirmed that they were killed with gunshot wounds to their heads. 3 suspects have been charged and are currently being questioned.
The winners of the Pulitzer Prize were announced this afternoon. Among this year's winners were the staff of ProPublica, who won the Public Service Award for their reporting on how billionaires gave gifts to Supreme Court justices, which pushed the court to adopt its first code of conduct. Another winner is the New York Times staff, who won the International Reporting Award for their work in covering Hamas's October 7th attack in Israel, as well as Israel's deadly response. The Pulitzer Board has also issued special citations to journalists and media workers covering the conflict between Palestine and Israel.
Coming up, your Newsline Sports Break with Jackson Warren. WRHU News Time is 5:54.
From the Philip Cavallero Sports Desk, this is your Newsline Sports Update.
It's the second round of NBA playoffs. Game 1 between the Knicks and the Pacers start tonight. The two teams last met in the playoffs back in 2013. Indiana took the 4-2 series win. Before that, the team split the back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals matchup in 1999 and 2000. Another chapter of the postseason rivalry is set to be written tonight. Here's how the announcers and Stephen A. Smith feel about this matchup.
The Indiana Pacers tasting postseason success for the first time in 10 years as they are moving on to the semifinals.
And it's over! This war of attrition is won by the Knicks. New York advances to the second round.
It ain't gonna be easy. I respect them brothers in Indiana. But New York Knicks. Go New York, go New York, go!
Sound courtesy of ESPN. Tip-off is at 7:30. Swinging to the MLB as the Mets begin their 3-game series with the Cardinals tonight. The Mets are 1-2 against St. Louis in their previous matchup, but are looking to change the record starting tonight. Game time is at 7:45. As for the NFL, retired quarterback Tom Brady got absolutely roasted by his friends and other celebrities such as Jeff Ross, Bill Belichick, Will Ferrell, Rob Gronkowski, and much more later through the night. All of this was hosted by legendary comedian Kevin Hart. If you didn't get the chance to see the roast of Tom Brady last night, you can definitely see it on Netflix. Here's a clip of Robert Kraft talking about Tom Brady.
I want to say this is the greatest coach in the history of the game that did what no one else has done. And having Tom Brady and him was the greatest honor the good Lord gave me. So, here it is.
With your Newsline Sports Update, I'm Jackson Warren. That will do it for tonight's edition of Newsline. Many thanks to the entire WRHU News team. Engineering our show this evening is Jason Spiller.
Thank you for tuning into Newsline, only here on your 4-time Marconi Award-winning radio station, 88.7 FM, Radio Hofstra University.
Access real-time local Long Island, New York, and global news, along with content from WRHU Talent Monday through Thursday, 5:30 to 6.
And tune back in from 7 to 9 Monday through Friday morning for our talk show, where we discuss Long Island life, national news, and international issues from the minds and mouths of Hofstra students on the morning wake-up call.
Lastly, check us out on social media at WRHU News for behind-the-scenes content.
For Newsline, I'm Alexa D'Amato.
And I'm Michael Dent.
Thank you for listening.
And have a great night.